What is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys, of course, with the second deck from the lineup of archetypes that will be featured in the running for a new structure deck for the OCG and possibly TCG. So I gave you guys Black Wings, and now I'm going to give you guys Madolche. So Madolche, as we know, is one of my favorites in a long list of decks and archetypes that I play. Very Earth attribute, has a lot of synergy with each other, a lot of return effects when it comes to being sent to the graveyard, and of course the overwhelming power that is from both its extra deck main support and its monster support. So I cannot wait to get to this. Let's get started. So for the starting lineup, I'm rocking 3 copies of Madolche Angeli, 3 copies of Hootcake, then 2 copies each of Madolche Pudding Cesar, 2 Madolche Madeline, 2 copies of Mufilo, 2 copies of Messengelato, and 1 copy of Madolche Pudding Cess. For the spells, I'm sorry, not for the spells, for the rest of the monsters, I'm rocking 2 copies of Spell Striker, a full set of the beautiful Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, and 2 copies of Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. For the spells, I'm rocking 2 copies of Madolche Chateau, 1 copy of Madolche Ticket, 1 copy each of Scapegoat, Raigeki, Reinforcement of the Army, and Monster Reborn. And then for all my doubles, I'm rocking 2 copies of Instant Fusion, 2 copies of Mystical Say Typhoon, and 2 copies of Call by the Grave. For the traps, I'm rocking 2 copies of Madolche Palooza, 2 copies of Solemn Strike, and 1 copy of Solemn Warning. For my extra deck, I will start off with the Fusion Monsters. I'm rocking 1 copy of Kabbalan Warrior and 1 copy of Fusionist. For the Exceed Monsters, I started off with the Madolches. I'm rocking 1 Madolche Chocolate Souffle. Not chocolate souffle. 1 copy of Madolche Pudding Cess Chocolate a la Mode. 1 copy of Madolche Teacher Glass Souffle. 1 copy of Madolche Tiramisu. And then for the rest of the Exceed Monsters, I'm rocking the Utopia package of Utopia Array and Utopia the Lightning and regular Utopia. 1 copy of Exciton Knight, 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, and 1 copy of Leviator Sea Dragon. For my Link monsters, of course, I'm rocking a copy of Madolche Fresh Tart, 1 copy of Malice Radiance, 1 copy of Nair Cerberus, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and the last monster in the main deck is 1 copy of Mech Knight Crusadia. So, the whole thing about Madolches is Madolches all have an ability that when they're destroyed by battle or card effect, while they're in your possession and they're sent to the graveyard, you can return those monsters back to your deck instead. So, with that in mind, the combination of effects that they have outside of that really help in terms of summoning each other, putting more Madolches onto the field. You have this pretty little main deck monster in the form of Pudding Cess, who circumvents around, an empty graveyard and the amount of stuff that you do, because Hootcake and Angeli are a great combination. Angeli, we'll start off with Angeli because she is one of the main focuses. Angeli was the second main deck Madolche monster to be fairy. It has the ability to pretty much alone Fire Blossom herself to get a Madolche monster. At the time before she came out, it was very difficult to pull off some plays like this, primarily because of the fact that most of the Madolche's lineup, you can't really do much to, sadly enough. Like, you can't go Raigeki, Dark Hole, and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I didn't get under the combination. The whole thing about it is that before we got Angeli, we had only Hootcake. There was no main deck level 4. There was no main deck Madolche monster that was a fairy. So you had to really spam the field to get out Madolche Queen, which was not hard. But now that we have not 1 but 2 additional level 4 monsters that are both fairy, Madolche lineup has gotten extremely better. It's got a lot faster, and a lot more combinations in plays are accessible. One of my favorite accessible things is this Angeli combo, because Angeli into a Hookake can banish Angeli and then go get another Madolche monster. You're pretty much setting up right there for a link play or an exceed play. And the fact that these monsters have such great access into a lot of their own separate plays and a lot of their main combinations helps tremendously. In having such access to a level 4 fairy monster for that is classified as a Madolche helps even more, especially when it comes to cards like Ticket or the secondary effects of other monsters, because you control a fairy type Madolche monster. Alright, we're going to move right along to Madolche Hookake, which pretty much banish a monster in your graveyard. This is summon a Madolche monster from your deck. And I believe there is an additional effect. Nope, there's no additional effect. Just, banish a monster from your graveyard to summon a Madolche. This is actually prominent because of all the hand trap monsters you're going to probably putting into the deck. So you have access to that and then putting those monsters into the graveyard. You have, of course, your combination plays with Hookake, Mufilo, and Messenger Gelato, because Messenger Gelato's search effect for cells and traps, as long as you control Beast type Madolche. You get the additional normal summon. You get a special summon off of Mufilo and Mufilo's effect, so we'll move on to Mufilo, where when it's normal summon, you can special summon a Madolche monster from your hand. So outside of Pudding Cess being one of its main targets, you have your additional targets in the form of Hookake, who can help you get into a monster, and Jelly, who can help you get into a monster, i.e. Hookake to get into another monster. You have access to Messenger Gelato, who can go search for your spell and trap cards that have Madolche in its name. As long as you control the Beast type Madolche monster, and well, luckily enough, Hookake and Mufilo are both Beast Warrior. There are a couple more, Beast monsters, of course. There is Bapple, there is Croissant, but those unfortunately aren't as much resorted to being used as possible. So, yeah. But they're all adorable, they're all cute, and they have a lot of great combination flex with each other. Let's move on to the second Madolche monster, the third, well, technically 1, 2, 3, yeah, the fourth fairy type Madolche monster in the form of Madolche Pudding Cess. So this is pretty much the sister of the Madolche Pudding Cess and the second daughter of the queen. So when she is normal summon, if you have no monster in your graveyard, you can summon her from. When you have no monster in your graveyard, you can summon her from your hand. When this card is special summon, you can summon a Madolche monster from your hand or deck, except for a copy of Madolche Pudding Cess, and then you reduce that monster's level by 1. That gives you access to Pudding Cess, and then Pudding Cess's ability, Pudding Cess level will be reduced by 1, and then you can exceed for a Madolche Exceed monster. You can link summon for a Madolche Exceed monster. Because technically, all the other monsters you're going to be summoning this turn, for the rest of the turn, when you use her effect, is Madolche monsters. So keep that in mind. Just like a lot of cards these days are going to exclude you from summoning stuff outside of their archetype or their attribute. And Pudding Cess Sword is one of them. She is an amazing monster, do not get me wrong, but it is a lot of play combinations you have to do because you have to make sure the graveyard has no monsters in it. I'm practically running, 7 other monsters that are not Madolche, so I do have to be careful about that, especially in the main deck. As far as the extra deck goes, that's where Hookake and them come in. Madolche Madolche. Madolche was actually a monster I didn't think I was going to be running because of all the massive special summons, but I need a Stratos in this deck. Madolches don't have their own predominant search card, so you are going to have to rely on the monster that takes up the normal summon, which, it does suck. Luckily enough, I'm running enough cards to counteract that. I was supposed to try to run double summon, it's just that I would have eventually, if that was the case, I'd have dropped it. To run double summon, just to speed up the rest of the monsters in the deck. It would probably have been a lot better. 15, 5, and then 20 in terms of monsters. Because I honestly, Madolche Mageline tends to be the weakest of them, but unfortunately the deck needs a Shadows. We have a ton of Lone Fire Blossoms, a ton of additional special summons, but we still need that additional search to get a lot of these cards either in hand or into play. So, as much as most people don't like Mageline and Mufilo, they're kind of necessary. to the best degree that they possibly can be. Even though some people would probably disagree with me on that, it's kind of just a big point and factor of it. Alright, we're going to move on to the non-Madolche monsters in it. Spell Striker is an old card. A friend of mine actually, from remembering this, it's honestly a really good and resourceful monster, because what you're doing with it is you're banishing a spell card, which is perfectly fine, so you special summon it from your hand, and then you use it pretty much for your Link 3 plays. Your rank 3 play, you can do it for your additional Link plays. Like, this card is amazing. It's Earth attribute. It's a warrior, so you can play Reinforcement Army, search for it, and then banish the reinforcement so that you can special summon it from your hand. You can combo it well with a lot of your other monsters, your instant fusions. Like, you have a lot of ways to combo this card into getting more monsters on the field, and that's a great way to fill your board with other cards. Of course, let's talk about the hand traps. We have it in two forms. As Blossom and Joyous Springs tends to be one of the go-to monsters. With her accessibility now in the game is part of the reason. The other part of the reason is because, of course, she honestly just stops so many other things you'd have to deal with in the game. You have a ton of monsters that search from deck. You have a ton of cards that search from graveyard. You have a lot of cards that search. So you really just want to make sure you don't have to deal with a lot of those cards and a lot of those nasty combinations. Is where she comes in. Now, I know, and everybody else knows, this is one of the cards right now that is the most expensive card right now for the game when it comes to play. Phantasme has a lot of great here and there's. Don't get me wrong. The only problem with that is in a physical variation of Madolche, unless you can cash out for these, and I have not seen them go down, you're need a set. And yeah, it is just, it's a wallop. But if you have them, congrats to you, because this is honestly it's a very good hand trap. It's not a tuner. It's not a synchro. It's not a tuner. It doesn't have all those massive combination of plays outside of what you're looking at. But when you look at it as a whole, okay, I kind of confused myself when I said that too. But looking at it as a whole, the combination of plays that you can get, because everyone at this point is playing a Link monster, getting a Link monster. You have an easy summon of a level 7 that can pop stuff on the field and draw cards for you. Recorrect your hand. That's why this card is amazing. But it is very expensive. If it wasn't for a lot of the good qualities that this card has, honestly, I think it would be such a sought after card. But it does do a lot of things. And part of the reason why you don't see me running cards like Pot of Extravagance in this deck, there's a lot of not necessary draw power to it, because this deck can really search itself out. If this deck did get draw power, oh my god, that'd be so crazy. If you imagine this deck with draw power, that would be ridiculous how powerful it'd be with draw power of its own accord. So, you combine that with a lot of the things Madolches have, and wow, it'd be crazy. So, alright. That is Phantasme. That's pretty much the monsters. We go on to the spells. So let's talk about the field spell, Madolche Chateau. 500 additional attack and defense to all Madolche monsters on the field. When activated, all your Madolche monsters will go back to the deck. And then every time a Madolche monster will be sent to the graveyard. Every time a Madolche monster in your graveyard will be returned to the deck, you add it to your hand. It's pretty much an easy, safe way of saying the combination of stuff you can do, because that way you don't have to search out or wait out for that monster. You can just easily put that monster back to hand. You have a ton of the recycle effects in this deck that are crazy. And of course you combine it with Madolche Ticket, and Ticket's effect that when Madolche monsters are sent back to your deck from field or grave, or sent to your hand from field or grave, you can add a Madolche monster from your deck to your hand. The additional effect involves the fairy monster. If you throw a fairy type Madolche, you search some of the monster that you searched for. And that helps out in, your swarming. That's why a lot of people really do rely on Angeli, putting Sessa, and putting Sas. Because of those things. Even Madolche Tiramisu, and of course Madolche Glass Souffle. All these fairy monsters, and the combination of the plays that the fairies help with, it really does come from Ticket. and take its secondary ability. Although it is once per turn, it's perfectly fine because a lot of cards will be once per turn. And this is starting when the cards stated, this card is effectively activated once per turn. And Ticket just being that resourceful to it. Alright, we talk about Ticket, we talk about Chateau. Instant Fusion gets 2 of the fusion targets that I'm running in this deck, primarily because they're Earth, primarily because they are adequate levels for Link summoning, and can help speed up the process of getting out a lot of your Exceed monsters. Moving on from there, of course, to deal with hand traps, double Call by the Grave, to deal with other Ash Blossoms, Ghost Sister, to deal with Bella and her Haunted Mansion, Ghost Ogres, all that. Or you can deal with monsters that want to search, monsters that want to do crazy things when they hit the graveyard, and get them out of the way. Mystical Sage Typhoon is to counteract a lot of the crazy field spells going around, a lot of the crazy trap cards and stuff. Even though a lot of people say, this format doesn't have a lot of heavy back row, well, Mystic Mind still is kind of a thing. And some decks don't have access to spell and trap removal, like a lot of other decks. So, a lot of decks are relying on cards like Mystical Sage Typhoon or Twin Twister. I chose Mystical Sage Typhoon. You can know side in, side out, MST or Twin Twist, and see how well that goes for me. The only additional cards left about are, of course, Scapegoat to help with those additional link summons. Raigeki for monster removal. Reinforcement of the Army because it can search for either Spell Striker or Messenger Lotto. And then Monster Reborn because, it's Monster Reborn. Alright, moving on to the trap cards. We have Madolche Palooza. Pretty much your hysteric party. Set summon all your Madolche monsters in your hand as possible to the field when they go back to the deck during the end phase. You can either play offensively with this card, play defensively with this, set up a lot of boards, set up a lot of plays, and get a lot of your monsters going off on a massive special summon. And it's an amazing special summon because of the fact that you can opt into your Link monsters, you can opt into your Seeds, you can go for your combination of stuff, and really just fill the board up. This is what a card that does a massive summon for its deck is supposed to do. Summon the monsters that you need to the field from either hand, the field, the deck, graveyard, whatever. Then get a lot of your other monsters onto the field. Get your boss monsters, get your big setups. Combine things so you can Link summon, Exceed summon, Synchro summon, all of that. Because there are a lot of variations of Madolches that can do a lot of those things. Synchro, Exceed, and Link all in one. If it's possible, go for it. And this is one of those triggers because the Madolches don't have a tuner. I'd be shocked if they ever get a tuner in a Synchro monster. But the thing about it is that because of how good of a combination this deck can get, wouldn't be surprising if they ended up getting one. But the big thing about it is that all the combinations and all of the setup plays for a push can come out of this card. And I'm running two of it so that I can guarantee that push. The only other cards left in the deck, of course, are the Solemn Brigade. 2 strike, 1 warning to deal with a lot of those counter-active cards. So, you can play Impervience if you want to. You can also play, what is it? There's a lot of stuff you can easily play in this deck that can counteract with a lot of the other cards. Primarily so that way you can deal with monster effects and nasty special summons and stuff. But this is just what I'm running here. We'll move on, of course, to the extra deck. I've already explained my reasoning for Kabbalah Warrior and Fusionist. The Madolche extra deck monsters. Chocolate Souffle is pretty much that additional summon. You can put her on top of a Link for another monster whose extreme material has Pudding Cess in it. Because she's optimally the advanced form of Pudding Cess. Just that she gets some additional summons of Madolche monsters. She may not be the biggest swinging monster in the game, but hey, she can opt into doing a lot of those push combos and a lot of those big setups. But I think honestly the two biggest bosses in this deck happen to be the Queen and the Glass Souffle. Souffle being a very defensive monster and protecting Madolche monsters while she's on the field. And then you have, of course, Tiramisu, which returns cards to the deck by attaching material from her and then returning two Madolche monsters back to the deck. Ultimately, the queen, honestly, is the biggest boss monster in the deck. Like, I'm sorry, but Chocolate a la Mode, why I call her Souffle? Chocolate a la Mode isn't as massive effect as what you can get out of Queen. And Glass Souffle is very defensive. Don't get me wrong, a defensive game isn't bad either. It's just very situational. And then, of course, we move on to the last Madolche monster, and that is the only Link monster currently right now, which is Madolche Fresh Sistheart. Two Madolche monsters. If a Madolche monster if this card points to a Madolche monster, spells and traps you control can be destroyed by card effect, and either player can target them with card effects. If this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, shuffle a Madolche monster into your deck instead. So she's going to combo with the two of the biggest cards that you would want still on the field. That is your Madolche Ticket and your Madolche Chateau. People did not like Sistheart when she came out, when they revealed her effect. They're like, no, this is a bad card. But here's the thing. Twin Twisters, MSTs, massive removal cards. The cards that you don't want to be removed or to get destroyed, she protects. Then she can protect herself by sending a Madolche monster in the grave back to the deck. So say you have a Link summon, the Link monster isn't a Madolche, but you have a monster graveyard, you can just return the Madolche monster grave back to protect her. And she's still protecting your field spell and your ticket. So that way they don't get targeted or destroyed by card effects. Because those are part of the big pieces that you need for your combo players. And here we have a monster that can protect them. So I don't get why people don't like that, but that's defense on top of defense, on top of a very defensive setup. So that confused me, that people didn't like her. I'm like, why? She's playing the defensive metagame for a deck that did not have one when it came to the spells and traps. Yeah, so Utopia package, just to get into Utopia Lightning, so Utopia Lightning can swing for some massive hits. Evil Sworn is outside Knight, clear the field. An easy rank 4 monster to go into. Abyss Dweller to deal with graveyard effects. Levy Air the Sea Dragon because of the effects of Who Kick. You kind of want your monsters back into the graveyard or back onto the field so you can rush through those plays as well. We're going to move on to the rest of the Exceed monsters. Malice Radiant. Additional 500 attack and defense to all of your Earth monsters since all the Madolches are Earth anyway. The only downside is Levy Air, but that's fine. And then he can recover any monster that's Earth from the graveyard and add it back to your hand, so that's not bad there. Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Phoenix, because I wanted the Nightmare combo to continue on, and they're both really resourceful monsters. And then let's talk about the Mech Knight Crusadia. So Crusadia needs two monsters that are supposed to summon the extra deck. When this card is linked summoned to the field, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, and also their monsters cannot target monsters for an attack except this card. A 3k attacker that your opponent must swing into. Threat. Then, once per battle during your calculation, this card with battles with such a summon monster, you can make it gain attack equal to the monster attack that's attacking it only during damage calculation. So anything that tries to run it over, you can just take its attack points and then run it over, which is crazy. And then if it's destroyed if this link summon card you control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card, you can shuffle one card on the field back into the deck. So she's a compulse, which is even better. Or I'm sorry, he's a compulse. So you get a lot of synergy, you get a lot of setup here. But wow, this is a really good replacement for anyone who doesn't have barrel sword tracking. We know at the time of this recording that they've already revealed a good portion of Battles of Legends Heroes Revenge. We don't know what the count is, as far as we know, for Barrel Dragon. He is a secret in the set, as well as a lot of the other really good monsters and stuff that's a secret in there. If he's not in there, then if he's hard to pull or his price isn't well enough, and hopefully she doesn't go up, he doesn't go up, I'll probably grab Crusadia. Just to say, okay, well, I at least have a additional link monster and combinations with my Growl Sword Dragon that can do some damage and do some resourceful effects. But that brings me to the end of this video. So thank you everybody for watching. I hope you guys do enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And that's 2 down, about 18 more to go. And I hope you guys are prepared, because I'm trying. Alright, well, thank you guys so much. I will catch you guys next time. Don't forget to hit that like. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the like buttons when you guys see videos you like of mine, as well as hitting up necessary social media sites, of course, Instagram and Twitter, for when I post my other updates and stuff like that. Patreon is still open if you guys want to see that. So thanks everybody, and I'll catch you guys next time. HJ signing out.